Mr. A here, saying, how y'all doing?
Yo! Are you ready to rumble? Or should I say tumble? Cause I don't stumble or fumble like a Gregor Brian gumbo. Standing on the ground, put the beat down, killing worms and drums, and I'm doing it on my terms.
Welcome to the Rumble. We are back and better than ever, helping you stay ready so you don't have to get ready. We don't want you sucker punch, so we're here each and every week helping you keep your guard up. I am Jeremy Lavelle with Remedy Claims Consulting at Claims Coach on Instagram and TikTok, and they just call me the mouth of the South. And alongside of me once again is the catastrophe queen, the claims dame herself, Ms. Jessica Odell, and the festively fastidious, the ferociously fanatical, the one, the only baby cakes, Miss Donna Lavelle. How is everybody doing? This is actually the day after Christmas. How y'all doing? Did y'all have a good Christmas?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm not real sure when everybody's going to be listening to it, but
Tomorrow,
you're going to have this. Okay, well, so they're actually listening to it today, but to us, it would be yesterday.
yeah,
So it will be the day after Christmas.
yes.
Oh, okay, great.
New Year's Eve.
I think that was one too many
Oh.
Eves. So are you talking about when they're listening to it or when they're recording it? Because depending on that, you
We're
could have been
recording
right.
it now, but they're going to be listening to it then.
Yeah, like pre-recorded is redundant. Anything recorded was done
It's already
before.
pre-recorded.
Every recording is
So
pre-recorded.
this episode has been pre-recorded.
Yeah, this episode has been pre-recorded. It was recorded before it was recorded, which I don't know how we do that, but we're going to figure that out.
Hey, guess
and
what?
And I'm super excited about it, huh?
I have some fun facts.
Oh, you've got. Oh,
I found some.
Then let's get to it. She was digging around. It was a lot of noise in the background. You should have heard her earlier. There were cats screaming, all kinds of. Anyway, so what are the fun facts that you've dug up out of the bottom of the trash heap this time?
Well, they're going to be centered around the holidays and Christmas. So, did you know that Santa Claus has his own zip code?
I'm assuming all of the North Pole is just one zip code, but go ahead.
Santa Claus's zip code is H0H0H0.
Is that a fact?
Yes. It's designated for Santa at the North Pole. Every year, Canadian children can send their letters to this address. I guess American kids can too. Can send their letters to this address and receive a personalized response from Santa.
A personalized response from Santa. Yeah, he's got to be a busy guy. I hear he gets tons of fan mail.
It says, "To whom it may concern."
I just wondered how he balances the whole naughty and nice list with answering the fan mail and the Christmas request
like
list.
does he respond and say, "You were bad"?
I mean, I
You
just
were a little
imagine.
shit this year.
Yeah, I mean, maybe so. Did y'all ever see the movie Elf when he actually has to go down to the mailroom and work? I would think that he would have been very good at that. That shouldn't have been that new,
Yeah,
based on the amount of mail that guy probably gets
I know.
between requests and.
everybody starts in the mailroom though.
Yeah, that's where you got to start. Yep.
Jingle Bells was originally a Thanksgiving song. It was written by Lord Piermont in 1857 for his church's Thanksgiving concert. But over the years, it became more closely associated with Christmas.
Jingle Bells was originally, well, I guess it's more of a winter song if you
Yeah.
think about it.
In Japan, it's a tradition for people
Saw
to
that
enjoy
video.
a Kentucky Fried Christmas. I don't know if this is true or not, but it was on the internet, so.
It's got to be true. Yep.
So it started off as a marketing campaign by KFC in the 70s and evolved into a widely adopted tradition of eating a bucket of KFC chicken to celebrate Christmas
I'm all for it.
for
Around the
Japanese children around the Japan.
Around the Japan. What was it you said earlier today? I wonder if those kids in the Far East are excited about opening up toys they just put together.
Wow. Straight to hell. We're going with you. It's okay.
Straight to hell. I'm going straight to hell.
Okay, now you know, and knowing is half the bullshit.
Now you know, and know. Merry Christmas, everybody! I'm hoping that you're geared up for this one. Jess and I are going to kind of dig into something that a lot of people have been talking about over the past month or so, and that has to do with the subject of fee caps. Okay, so I want to remind everybody this is just a discussion. And we're going to kind of dig into like the good thing about fee caps and the bad thing about fee caps and a good friend of ours. And just is Tony is he an attorney or is he a PA? Kind of what is his?
I haven't either. He's according to this, he's on the Wheeler, DiUlio, and Barnaby property damage attorney website.
Okay, so he wrote an op-ed piece concerning fee caps and whether or not NAPIA is or isn't aligned with him. His position was that they have. In fact, the title of his op-ed piece was NAPIA aligns with insurance carriers on fee caps. And and that was the title of his piece. Now, whether you agree with him or disagree with him, I am not really here to weigh in on it. What I would like to discuss over the next 3 rounds is why fee caps might be good, why fee caps might be bad, and whether or not it's even possible to institute a fee cap across the nation, kind of a flat fee, kind of to institute that, across all states that allow public adjusters. So we're going to get into each and every that. I want to remind you that it is not Jessica and I that are debating here. It's you guys that are in the Rumble. While we may disagree on some points, we are here basically to provide the commentary of the slugfest that you guys are in each and every day. This is going to come to you in 3 rounds. When you hear this sound, you know that the round has begun. And when you hear this sound, as always, you know that it is when the round is over. And we're going to dig into this fee cap business because round 1 starts right after this. Are you just wanting help on strategy on a specific claim? I can help you find the traction you are looking for and learn how to truly control the narrative in the ever-changing world of claims. You can reach out to me directly at 888-596-8772, or you can find me on the web at remedyclaims.com and just click Public Adjuster Training. That's 888-596-8772 or remedyclaims.com. None of them started. You can even shoot me an email with Jeremy at remedyclaims.com. Whether you need to learn how to estimate, scope, negotiate, or prospect, I can help you drill down to move your career to the next level. Maybe you're just starting out and you need to learn the claims process from A to Z. Round 1, why fee caps might be good. Okay, so I said, round 1, why fee caps might be good. I personally, when they start talking anything that is capped kind of automatically makes me nervous and I kind of go on my guard. And it, and so I'm, immediately in my head, my immediate response is I'm opposed to it. But before I just jump off in it, remember why we exist. We're here to defend the insured and protect the insured. And ultimately we're getting paid right out of the money that is coming from this claim, or at least the amount of money that most of us are paid are based on the amount of claim. There are a few outlying states such as Louisiana that is not based on the value of the claim. It's more of a flat rate or an hourly rate. So there are states like that. Louisiana is just one of the examples of them. And fee caps are something that most of us look at. I'm going to give you an example. Just Texas. Texas has a fee cap, and this is basically how Texas works. And
Same.
I honestly have no problem with this statute. It basically states that public adjusters cannot charge more than 10% of the full RCV value of the claim. And the full RCV value of the claim, I want to remind you kids that are following along at home, does include the deductible. That's what we're allowed to charge. Now, if we are in a situation where we are working after the carrier has kind of already weighed in or the can has been kicked down the road a bit and we come in for a small increase, maybe we are arguing coverage on a small one area and there's an increase on a $100,000 claim and we're looking for an increase of $10,000 or $15,000, Texas allows us to charge 25%, of the increase of that value, but that 25% increase will never be allowed to exceed 10% of the full value of the claim. No matter what, that is the most that we can charge. So at the end of the day, it's 25% of the increase or 10% of the RCV value, whichever is less. And so I find that to be a more than fair amount. I worked with that amount. I have been working with that amount for a long time, and I make a fine living. So, but I think, people having an idea and an understanding of what they're getting into when it comes to hiring a public adjuster and how we get paid, I think transparency in that is needed. I think that we need to be upfront about how we charge, where we, how we're doing our math. And I don't think it should just be a number that's pulled out of the air based on the difficulty of the claim, in my opinion. So I believe that a fee cap is reasonable. Other areas that get fee capped, I believe that in some situations there are attorneys that are capped at something. I don't know for a fact because I'm not an attorney,
capped.
But I know that they have much higher fee caps. But I believe that they're still capped at some level. I don't know. I welcome any attorney to weigh in here because I'm not an attorney and I don't know. I am making that as an assumption.
So, in theory, if the attorneys are capping 30, 40%, or that's what they're charging, why would a PA feel the need to charge 30 or 40% on their own claim, on their part of it? Yeah.
Well, and I don't disagree with you, Jess, because I think a lot of this, attorneys have a much higher administrative burden when it comes to not just navigating a carrier, but navigating the court system and what is required by law in order to drag someone kicking and screaming into the middle of a lawsuit, right? Where they are legally obligated and there is fallout for ignoring it. You know what I'm saying? So I believe that administrative burden is well worth its existence. I think it serves its role, and I think it's a good thing all in all. So I'm not upset about that, but fee caps are just kind of part of it, and I don't have a problem with a fee cap whatsoever. So, Jess, what do you think about fee caps?
Since this round is specifically talking about the good about fee caps. One, it does keep people from doing what a lot of people in our industry are already trying to do, and that is to take advantage of people when they're in their time of suffering. So it keeps people from charging 30 and 40% to turn right around and send their file to legal, which would then take another 30 or 40% of that as well. So I think it helps keep people honest. It's already bad enough out there. And going back to, if that's what attorneys are charging, 30, 40%, well, we're not attorneys. We're not even close. We have nowhere near the amount of education and training that an attorney would have. What gives us as a profession this I earned it? Well, no, we don't. I mean, a 19-year-old can come out of high school or whatever, go take a class online or whatever and get a certificate to be a public adjuster. Would they make a good public adjuster like that? No, but that's all that's technically required for them to work a claim. So to just arbitrarily say it's fair to charge up to upwards of 30 or 40% and not have a cap is just, it's absurd in my opinion. Yep.
And I agree with you. I completely agree with you. And you need to be able to communicate to your client.
Yep. Here's where my role starts and stops.
Ride that I'm getting on.
Here's what I'm doing to earn that percentage.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Then, by the way, there are still 2 other methods of dispute resolution that we may have to explore after I've exhausted everything within the confines of my license.
And here's the other thing. That I don't think anybody wants to look at is that the percentage fee cap, as opposed to like a flat fee cap, like the most you can charge is $15,000. Okay.
Right.
What we're
Good
mostly
point.
talking about here is why a percentage fee cap that is based or derived from the value of the claim. Okay. We're talking about a percentage. It allows us to work on contingency. Do you know what I mean? And so without a percentage fee cap, that contingency thing sort of goes away. Now, I fully support the contingent nature of our service. How do you feel about the contingent nature of our service? So what I mean is, just to be clear, and I'm sure you understand because you're a very smart person, Jess, that if we don't win you anything or we don't bring any value, then we don't get paid. Now, contingency is something that even first party and third party attorneys deal with. I mean, you can look at like all of the personal injury attorneys across the country. It's like, if we don't win, you don't pay. Kind of the idea. It makes for a very kind of easy sales process, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? So I think that the fact that there is a fee cap on the percentage helps the contingent nature of our services. How do you feel about that,
It
Jess?
also, the other part is by not forcing us to do something like Louisiana where it's hourly, right? Because unfortunately, Louisiana is still hourly. Or even flat fee. It's not percentage based. There's no room or flexibility for us as professionals to say, okay, you know what, this one, I get it. I normally charge maybe 10% on a claim, but for yours, I'm just going to charge 5 because of the amount that was in this claim. And honestly, I was able to do it with, 2 letters that I spent X amount of hours on. So having it more fluid that way versus any other kind of cap, whether it's an hourly cap or something of that nature, I think it's preferred.
Well, and I think one of the things that's good about fee caps is Absolutely. It keeps us honest and it keeps us working hard. You know what I'm saying? I think the other thing that's good about a percentage fee cap, one of the things that it fosters is our responsibility to stay relevant to the claims landscape, at large. Let me just kind of give you an example. 10 years ago, we could go out, we could draw some circles on a roof, put some test squares down, take some photos, write an estimate.
Yep.
And that claim generally would get paid for a full roof replacement COVID. 9 times out of 10 without any problem.
Yeah. I haven't seen that since COVID hit.
Well, yeah, I'm talking. Yeah, that's 10 years ago, right? I mean, so that was pretty much the long and short of it, And we could simply just, for lack of a better term, take some pictures, write an estimate, and turn in, a $25,000 or $30,000 roof claim, and take our $2,500 or $3,000. And go on down the road, and it was wash, rinse, repeat. Well, lately, it's not been that easy. I'll just put it to you like that. It's just simply not been that kind of easy when it comes to getting a roof approved. Okay, can you imagine charging somebody for the time and the effort for the wash, rinse, repeat process, your $2,500 or $3,000 for your wash, rinse, repeat process, regardless of the outcome? Do you know what I'm saying? And so that contingent fee percentage is a good thing, and it causes that public adjuster to stay up to speed. And I'm not talking about continuing education here. I am talking about, as far as statutes go and the way the claims are handled from a regulatory standpoint, I'm talking about all of the different, the moving goalposts that sits in front of us that carriers seem to, want to provide. I mean, because back, when I first started this, it was between 6 to 8 hail hits, in a test square. And now you're seeing you draw a test square, then you draw 6 squares inside of that test square. And there's got to be so many. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like it's all of this, what you're all essentially estimating guidelines to help people who don't understand whether or not a roof is damaged enough to replace it. And that's to help uneducated people, unseasoned people make determinations on the amount of coverage that should be extended, which doesn't have anything to do with roofing professionals or public adjusters at all. right? And these people like to say, well, your policy only covers a full roof replacement if these hits are in the right place on this many test scores, and that estimating guideline, or that inspecting guideline,
Right.
they like to make it part of the policy. You know what I'm saying? And so we as public adjusters have to learn that argument and stay on top of that, to remind that adjuster that we're talking to on the other end of the phone, or that adjuster that we're talking to while we're on the roof. It's like, look, buddy, I understand what you're up against. I'm not up against those same guidelines. These are in place so you don't make a mistake. They're not in place so I don't make a mistake. These are so you don't make a mistake. And my argument is going to stand. I don't care how many hits you have in your little test square up there, but it allows us to stay on top of what the carriers are doing. And damn it, Jess, that's half our damn job, is to understand what the carriers are doing. Now, I understand you work in more of a contracting world. Just so people know, Jess Spence has recently took a job, I guess, in Q3 with a contractor, but she's a licensed public adjuster, as most of you know, and she understands kind of what we're up against. And so I love that she's here to bring kind of a contractor's perspective to things, as well as her knowledge when it comes to public adjusting, and then obviously her IICRC knowledge and clout that she has, that she can always answer those questions. But anyway, I mean, to stay relevant in those situations is always super super
I think
handy,
too,
because
fee
that's
cap,
really
the
what
other
we're there to
positive
do,
of
is
fee
to help
cap is
them
it still
navigate the
ensures that
claims
there's enough
process.
money left in the claim for the insured to actually get their work done. Like it keeps it, in theory, a fee cap would keep it at a reasonable rate. And when I say reasonable, if I were to propose a fee cap, I would propose that perhaps maybe there's one that's for residential and maybe there's one separate for commercial, because they are not the same, like by a long shot. There are so many other, multitude of moving pieces that go into a commercial loss, not so much a residential loss. So I sat down and I thought, okay, the article Giulio was saying, he had he said 92% of all insurance claims are under $25,000. Okay, well, first and foremost, and you and I kind of talked about this earlier, you can't even go off that $25,000 number, because it's a skewed number, because that leads us to believe that's what's being reported. Number. And we already know that a vast majority of claims are underpaid to begin with. So that 92% of all insurance claims are under $25,000. I guarantee you that benchmark or that amount is much higher than that. But let's just use that as an example. Just as an example, I sat down and I crunched some numbers. And
sure.
What they were proposing, or what Giulio was saying that NAPIA was proposing, there was talks of a nationwide cap of 15%. Well, first I'm going to have to caveat that I don't remember seeing. Okay, it did say new money. You're right. It did say new money. That's right.
Money.
So
on new
15% of new money.
Yeah,
let's take a $25,000 claim, because 92% of all insurance claims in theory are under 25. So let's just start with 25. Let's say the carriers paid 12% already, or 12,000. Gosh, get my English right. 25 grand for a loss. 12,000 is already paid. Now the claim is stalled. The adjuster's not responding anymore. Who knows? A multitude of reasons. The insured feels the need to go get a PA. PA comes on board, 15% of new money. Well, the new money in this case would be 13,000. Well, at 15%, that's that's $1,950 for the PA to settle the claim, if they were to get it up to that $25,000. Looking at that for a basic residential claim, when I take a look at what my average time in on an average residential loss, okay, this is average, so it skews depending, but I would say we put an average of 40 hours into a residential claim. Looking at the number, totaling up the hours traveled to and from the site, inspecting the loss, intaking the client, preparing a photo report, preparing the estimate, engaging with the carrier, conducting a joint inspection. That also includes travel to and from that joint inspection and time on the site for that joint inspection, time to prepare the rebuttal, time to prepare a final demand, and then communicate back and forth for up to 45 to 60 days. When you break all or total up all of those hours, I guarantee you it's about 40, maybe a little bit more. But let's just go with 40. So of that $1,950, that $1,950 that the PA fee would come to, divided by that 40 hours it took them to settle it at the full $25,000. That comes out to $48.75 an hour. Do you know who else in this country makes about that amount, according to Indeed.com? Attorneys make $41.37 an hour on average in this country. An aeronautical engineer makes $42.02 per hour in this country. A senior web developer, $42.34. An adjunct professor, $43.53. Midwife, $44.94. I mean, we're getting into, professions that have an immense amount of education behind them.
And to be clear, this is generally salaried money. Okay, this is salaried money. Now you'll hear attorneys that bill between $250 and $300 a year, and all of these kinds of things. Now that's not what we're $250 to $300 an hour. That's not what we're talking about. That money is sort of what the business charges for the services at an hourly rate.
That
is not an
yes. So it'd be business, right? Because then you'd have some sort of overhead. So, okay, well, continuing out my math in theory, when I was looking at why would it be okay? Like, why is this not a bad thing? In this scenario, it wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. Let's assume, right, you get one claim a week, that's 52 claims a year. At that rate that we talked about a second ago, that's $101,400 a year. Maybe you have 30% of that as your overhead, right? Maybe you have some a CRM you're using, your own training and education, your inspection equipment, Xactimate subscription, DocuSketch, Matterport, all these other subscriptions. Let's assume that makes up 30% at the end of your year. You still have an income of $70,980, which is not too just god awful, but I think it's a lot less than some PAs out there have grown accustomed to, because in some places it kind of has still kind of been the wild, wild west. But even if not, is it that we're mad at the cap, or is it that we're mad at our economy as a whole right now? Our like looking at these lawyers, the aeronautical engineer, senior web developer, all those professions down there, they're making the same amount. It's almost not even fair that we're making that if we just do, again, this is all theoretical, right? It's theoretical. I'll just preface that, or keep, driving that in.
Yeah, we've got to start somewhere. We've got to look at it somewhere. The thing that I want to point out is most people, and I'm talking adults, because most of the people that are public adjusting, I just want to point this out real quick, Jess, and I think you make a great point. $70,000 a year ain't nothing to sneeze at. Between you and me, especially when you're talking about a middle class, dual income household, if one of them is making $70,000 a year. That is generally by and large, stuff that people can live on. It's paying bills. Now, ain't nobody getting rich on that, and you got to be smart with your money and all that kind of stuff. But generally, $70,000 is money that we bring in when there's a salary, sort of a guarantee behind it. You know what I'm saying? Because we are subject to so many changes. We're subject to who's in office. We're subject to so many different things. The regulations that change on us, what we can and what we can't do. We've got to carry levels of insurance, whether it's general liability, errors and omissions. And I think that was one of the things that you were speaking to in the 30%. That may be a little low, that may be a little high. I'm not really here to weigh on one way or the other, but there are some places here where you can evaluate, because the number one rule that I have is that you don't hurt the claim. And one of the things that you can do to hurt the claim is insert yourself where you're really not needed. And when you're talking about a claim that's $25,000, you're talking about a claim that's $25,000 by and large, and they've paid $12,000 or $13,000 on that claim. Most of what we're doing at that point in time is supplementing. It's not a coverage question. You know what I mean? They've already opened up coverage on that thing. And so we're not really fighting a coverage issue. And so, and that's why I'm telling PAs across the land, and I'm really wanting to help contractors learn kind of what their role is as the expert. And I'm wanting to remind, public adjusters the proper time to public adjust a claim is when, there appears to be available coverage and the carrier, for whatever reason, is just not extending or opening that said coverage. You got any final thoughts there?
I just think
know
that
we kind of
if they do enforce
it all over
a
that.
fee cap, I really do appreciate kind of what Texas does in that as long as it doesn't exceed the 10% of the total value of the claim. And here's why. Whether it's a $20,000 hail roof claim from a hailstorm, or it's $125,000 hurricane loss, because a lot of my losses were hurricanes, I'm going to put the same full court press effort into documenting that loss, getting all the key players involved, coordinating and basically orchestrating the claim process through and through. It doesn't matter so to cap that income on just new money, like if we're going to lower that cap, then lower it to where it's the full, doesn't exceed the full RC, 10% of the full RCV or 15%.
And I think one of the things that points out here is Kentucky did like that 2.5% cap on something, and I can't remember all of the details about it, but this is sort of one of the things that spurred the conversation on, is that Kentucky basically brought in a 2.5% cap, and all that really does is make people not want to be public adjusters, which I think is Diolio's point, is that we're making. That's why, and that's what we're going to get into in round two, and round two starts right after this.
One of the most difficult claims you can work is a contents claim. It requires extreme detail and significant documentation. Ricky McGregor with Monarch Claim Services is the expert you need on your side. She will handle on-site evaluation, inventory, photo documentation, pricing, and overall contents claim organization. She will work with your team beginning to end so you can focus on the rest of the claim. Do your client a favor and call Ricky McGregor with Monarch Claim Services. You can reach her at 515-783-1434. That's 515-783-1434, or find her on the web at monarchclaimservices.com.
Round two. Why fee caps are so freaking bad?
Yeah.
So, if I have to fall somewhere, you know what I mean? I want to reiterate. I think the way Texas does it is great. I'm very happy with how Texas does it, because 99% of the time, a claim in Texas, the value of the claim is representative of how tough it is. You know what I mean? I know, like during Hurricane Irma, there were, in Fort Myers area where Hurricane Irma was very strong. There's a ton of tile roofs there, right? And a lot of the damage that was done, you were getting up to $150,000 and $200,000 in claim value, and all it was a roof replacement. Whereas most roofs, that are 30 or 40 squares, around Hurricane Irma time, were somewhere coming in around between $400 and $500 a square. I'm talking about a composition shingle roof. So you're looking at $20,000. But these tile roofs were coming in at $100,000 and $125,000, but the job is the same. You know what I mean? It's still just an estimate. It's some photographs. It's dealing with an engineer here and there. But I also know that carriers' attitudes are really different at $20,000 versus $120,000.
That's right.
Their attitude of whether or not they want to pay a claim is directly related to. I mean, there's
I was going to say 60. That's so close. Yes,
up over
$70,000. Yep.
I mean, you know what I mean? But yeah, right. It's right in there. It's sort of like alarm bells start going off. Meetings are hailed. Children are taken hostage. I mean, there's all kinds of little things that happen once that claim value ooches up over that $60,000 to $70,000 mark. That a lot of flags go up, and people start paying attention, and the burden gets heavier. Do you know what I'm saying? Whether it's replacing one tile on a roof, or one, and I'm going to tell you, one pair of speakers. I have seen where one pair of speakers gets more scrutinized than anything. It's just because it's expensive. And I believe with everything in me, based on my experience, carriers' desire to pay a claim is directly related to that line of demarcation of $70,000. If they can keep claims below 70 grand, generally we can bump and hum without a whole lot of worry. And that's why really and truly all of these public adjusters who are wanting these large loss, air quotes, I'll do it for you, Jess, nobody else can see me, but large loss claims, you have no idea what you're asking for. No clue. You have no idea. And the only reason you want a large loss claim is because of the payout. I am telling you, these actual large loss complicated claims are so much work. That 10% seems to get very, 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 very small. You know what I mean? And so, while we're talking about fee caps being bad, that is one of the things that I look at. There are places where I think that they're needed, and there are places where I think that the public adjuster really gets screwed over on it, because once it gets up into that large loss territory, the amount of back and forth that you referred to in your scenario in round one really freaking changes. Go ahead, Jess.
Hopping the fence and coming over to the construction side, mostly, in water mitigation and, chemical cleanup, stuff like that. The large loss in the PA world, or talking to, roofers and stuff like that, you're right, it's tied to a dollar amount. But I will tell you, in the rest of the industry, large loss, typically you get into distribution centers, whole businesses having to shut something or part of something down. That large loss means something completely different, and you deal with brokers and risk managers. You don't deal with, the insurance agent down the street, in your local town or whatever. You don't deal with, Joe Schmo insurance, agent. It is a completely different it's a completely different sector. It actually doesn't have very much to do at all with the dollar amount, so much as the caliber of personnel you're interacting with and what they expect you to do as a PA.
So true. So true. I mean, I cannot tell you. I mean, because basically you can take that Xactimate subscription that you have in a large loss and wad it up and throw it in the floorboard of the car.
Schedule of values. They want to see like all of these other things. And I was like, man, this is all these, I call them Hollywood PAs. The Hollywood PAs, when they would talk about large losses, that's all it was. It was just dollar amounts. And now that I'm on this side, and my eyes have been completely opened to what large loss really means. I'm like, holy cow, we have no idea what we're talking about in our own industry. They're, a cap is still,
well,
I still don't think we're,
and I'm telling you what, the carrier.
That's why I think there should be a residential cap and a commercial cap, because there is it's a different beast.
Well, and I completely agree with. And I was going to bring this up in round one. One of the things that they do on the IA side, at least they used to, I don't think they do it much anymore, but we used to have what was called a fee schedule, right? And so between this much and this much, between $1,000 and $5,000, there was this much fee. Between 5 and 10, between 10 and 20, between 20 and 30, and between 30 and 60, and and then it would go up there, and then there was this amount of money. So whether it was $20,000 or $29,999, that price for that span was exactly the same. And I remember sitting around a bunch of independent adjusters that were sitting at, just a few dollars, a few decimal points short of getting it up to that next fee tier, so to speak. And they were running around trying to get, that extra $150 or $200 that came with the next fee tier, right? And, people are always going to be driven by money, because at the end of the day, this entire thing is managed and run by people. And at the core, they're out for themselves. You know what I mean? And that's just a reality. I like to think of myself as very ethical, and I really want to do the best thing I can for my client, but not at the expense of my own children. right? And so so let's leave us no doubt here.
Well, I mean,
who's
if
most
I go back
important in
to
this scenario
going back
in my
to that
world,
$25,000
right? So
example,
it's
I
me and
went
mine.
back and I said, let's assume the carrier paid even more. And so all that's left for the PA to fight was $7,000. Under that 15% of new money scenario, looking at that $7,000 that the PA has to fight for now. Under that scenario, going through all of that math, the same that we talked about earlier in the other round, right? Break it down, 40 hours a week, 40 hours per claim. What does that come out to? It came out to $26.25 an hour is what the PA would make off of a $7,000. But they put in the same amount of time. It still took 40 hours to go out, meet on site, document the loss, chalk the roof, whatever they had to do, if there was ceiling damage, they docu-sketched, whatever they did. They did the whole shit, but they did everything that they would normally do. Because still, the total value of that claim was $25. That means they already knew all the bits and pieces that had to be involved in that. So they still did 40 hours, but at that $7,000, 15% of that, basically, if they still had one claim, per week, one new claim a week like that, 52 claims a year, that same income, it came to $54,600 for the year. And then I assumed, maybe you have up to 30% or whatever in overhead. Your income comes out to $38,220, so then I went to, it is on,
and that's on a variable. That's on a variable pricing model. And,
you're right.
And as opposed to a fixed pricing model where whether you're making $100,000 a year or $50,000 a year, that cost of that CRM is the same. That cost of Xactimate is it's not the same. Yes. It's actually gone up. Yes. Same with Company Cam and same with all of these other people that are going up, right? And because that's inflation, guys, prices go up, and it's like, and it sucks. And it sucks. But 5 years from now, if you're still around, you won't care about this price increase. You'll be bitching about the one that just happened. So, I mean, prices going up is a part of running and doing business. You know what I mean? Nobody's here trying to, because can you imagine, like I think Company Cam just went up on their prices. And God bless you guys at Company Cam, because I don't want to go back to what it was like before we had you.
Yep.
Just don't want to go back and do it the way that we did it, having to import photos into Xactimate, not being able to translate, and having somebody upload photos right into the photo journal with a link and all of the really cool technology that they had. And when I'll tell you this, just between you and me, Jess, I don't know how you felt about it, and this is just Company Cam specific. I would tell you that when I found out how much Company Cam cost, the immediate thing that went through my head was, that's not enough money. I always thought it was low. You know what I mean? And I'm so appreciative of what those guys do. And, I'm not encouraging price increases.
Note out there to Company Cam. Jess and Jeremy are shielded from the next increase.
Yes, that's the whole reason I brought this up, as a cheap, shameless plug to defend and protect me from price increases from all of these people. But I want to see some Facebook. I want to see some posts. If we're going to complain about Company Cam, we're going to complain about, Xactimate and all of these kind of things. Guys, I want you to start putting Facebook posts out there every time AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile raise your frickin' prices. Or do you pay attention, or you just pay it because it's an auto pay and it's not something you care about? Because we could all go back to not having cell phones too. You know what I'm saying? Some of these things are not, Company Cam in my world is not a luxury. It's a utility. And you have to look at some of these things that have become a utility and improving and bearing out the claims for the work product that we need to produce for the day and age that we're operating in. So, that's why, when we're dealing with, and this is the thing that I referenced earlier, and I may be way off base here and way off task here, but these fee caps, the reason I don't like them, but a percentage-based fee on a contingency is essentially recession-proof, inflation-proof. You know what I'm saying? We're not going to be affected by that, because as the prices go up, now I realize your price to prosecute and carry through a claim, Company Cam, amortized across however many claims you work in a month, if they went from $40
and
and you're
just trying to keep
working,
the
what did you say?
scenario,
It was one claim
equal
a week.
across.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
On your scenario, let's say it went up to $40. Are you telling me, do you plan to contend that $10 fee for that one claim that you're working on, company
But at
Kim's
the end
not
of the
worth
day,
it?
that $38,220 salary,
Really?
quote unquote salary, in this theoretical scenario, I mean, that I looked up again through Indeed.com and some of these other, like, what professions out there make that kind of income. And it's an entry-level machinist, an entry-level remote online chat specialist, a remote customer success coordinator, and entry-level supply chain call supports. But like, we're worth more than and that sounds snooty. I don't mean that to be snooty. What we do, what our job entails, does still require we have to know policy. We are still on tap for our errors and omission. We're on tap for a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And all of these cost the same. Yeah. All of these cost the same. And that's why I was saying it's more of a fixed price cost model. You know what I mean? It's more of a fixed cost model rather than a variable cost model. Now, a variable cost model comes into play because the more business you do, the cost of doing business goes up. But these baseline non-discretionary sort of things that we pay for, they're going to stay the same no matter what. You know what I mean? And that's why, and here's the other thing that I want to bring up in my last minute here. And so prepare the rant music because I'm about to go off on it. Public Adjuster is a service that is provided. Okay. And 92% of claims get opened, inspected, paid, settled, denied, whatever the case may be. 92% of them go through that process without me, Jess, or any of you good-hearted people out there ever getting involved. Okay, but it is a service that is paid for, and I do not understand why somebody feels it necessary for me to be capped on what I charge for something that somebody has elected to do. So that's that's a brave conversation between you and your customer. Okay, so if I want to charge $60,000 to handle your $5,000 claim, and you're willing to pay it, and I'm willing to charge it, I don't think anybody should step in and tell me a damn thing about what I can and can't charge for a service that I provide, because most of these claims do not even need my existence, but people choose to do it because they see the value in it. And so I use a cap. I use a 10% sort of as a rule of thumb. And the last time I checked, we are not attorneys. They don't need our help navigating the claims process, though I do believe it's beneficial. I do believe it brings a very strong value, but it is not 100% required. It is these people's choices. And if you're predatory, shame on you. If that's what you're doing and you're preying on people's tragedy and you're showing up at people's driveways with their house on fire, hoping that you're the person that they pick, then shame on you. And that's just how I feel about it. And that is no slight to people and how things get done in certain different ways. I understand all of that, but I am not going to prey on somebody's tragedy because, we've got a hurricane coming. I'm not going to go knock on doors and go, when the hurricane blows your house away, call me first. You know what I'm saying? What I want to do is I'm there to lend a helping hand, provide a little bit of peace in a storm, and I should be able to charge whatever I want to help them navigate that process. If you can file taxes on your own and you can handle H&R Block, I don't know if they're capped on how much they charge. I don't know if Jackson Hewitt's capped on how much they charge, or any CPA or whatever the case may be. But if I've got a service and I want to sell it and somebody's willing to pay for it, then butt the hell out of it. So, and that's just how I feel about a fee cap. Now, again, I don't think you should prey on the tragic. Okay. So all of that, all in and all done, there I am. That's why I don't like fee caps, just to be honest with you. Final thoughts,
I think
Jess?
that's a good point. And I think that kind of goes into what we're going to kind of talk about in round 3 also.
Well, and I think one of the things, because round 3 is basically about a nationwide fee cap. and whether or not that's going to work. And we're going to get into that, whether or not we think that that's a good idea, if it's even possible. Never mind, that little thing we call the Constitution of the United States providing certain privileges and rights to the states. But we'll get into that in round 3 because it starts right after this. When choosing someone to help with your online marketing, make sure you go with someone that has years of experience. Our good friend Sally at Thrive has over 20 years of digital marketing experience. She can build you a beautiful 15-page, sleek, interactive website, post on your social media platforms multiple times a week. She can do a video, an amazing CRM to manage and maintain and nurture your clients' text, email marketing, review generation, a business listing on 60+ search engines, including 3 voice networks, appointment scheduling, estimates, invoices, payment processing, and more. She will also create for you on Google, a Facebook page, in Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. If you need these for your businesses, she'll help you create those pages on all of those sites. If you already have these pages, she'll optimize them for you as well. Call or message Sally today. If you want to get started, you can reach her at 214-789-1651. Again, her name is Sally Brigance. Her number is 214-789-1651. And you'll also get a landing page the day you sign up. When you send her a referral that signs up with her, she'll credit your billing account. Logos are also available, and she also offers a lead generation service and SEO, search engine optimization, where she can guarantee you to appear on the first page of Google or your money back. It is spelled THRYV, and you can find my good friend Sally Brigance, and that's spelled SALLIE, Brigance, BRIGANCE, and she can be reached once again at 214-789-1651. Round 3. Should the fee cap be nationwide? That was not a cheap, shameless plug for Nationwide Insurance.
But oh, this one's awful. The idea of a nationwide.
That's dumb. I'm just.
You want to go first?
Yeah.
You want to go first? You want me to go first?
There is just no way that you can do a nationwide fee cap. That just doesn't work. You've got too many other state laws. The first one that comes to mind is some states, and I live in a state where there is no state tax. Okay.
Yep.
Jess and I are both from Texas, but she flits across the border over into the land of the Louisianas quite a bit. So she kind of understands that. They do have a state tax. I remember when I was an independent adjuster over there, I had to report every claim that I worked in that state and what I got paid on it. That was stuff that they wanted to know. and how that income is earned. And so because there's state taxes in some states and no state taxes in other states like Texas and Florida and all of the different, regulations that go into that, I just don't think it works. I just don't think you can get into a flat fee that is nationwide, because I think our cost of living is different. I mean, could you imagine having a 15% fee cap on new money trying to pay for an apartment in Manhattan?
Right. Well, and it would be awfully bold of anyone to try to impose a nationwide fee cap when we don't have any nationwide governing body over our profession. It's governed by the states. The states are who license us. The states are who determine our fees, caps, whether they exist, not exist, whether it's RCV, new money, all that good stuff. To say that something would be needed to be implemented nationwide goes as far as saying that there also should be a governing body of some sort at a national level, which would also then state, okay, well, then we need some kind of nationally accepted curriculum and licensing, education, all that other good stuff. Like you can't do one without the other. Right now it's with the states. And it makes sense that it's with the states. The infrastructure for our profession is with the states. So to do nationwide, somebody's got to step up somewhere and be that nationwide
regulator,
governing body. Yeah, who's that?
I love it when the federal government gets involved. I love it when the government gets involved at any level, because that really works.
This is a podcast by two Texans. To say we love.
Well, look, I served my nation's military proudly.
Same.
And I am so glad that they have done such a wonderful job at protecting our borders and maintaining the level of world peace that makes it even possible to exist around a bunch of bickering people. I love that we are who we are. You know what I mean? I don't think there's a better country in the world to live in, and I've been to a few. Okay. But right now, public adjusters, when it comes to fee caps in general, public adjusters have no governing body to appeal to when the carriers seem to basically take the policy, pitch it in the trash can, and decide not to follow it and create their own narrative and do their own claims process aside and apart from what the policy demands or calls for. And they do it on every single claim. Every single claim. And if you want a longer dissertation on that, please feel free to reach out to me and I will explain that to you. But go read the duties after the loss and you will realize I just have one question. Why do they write an estimate when they should be out there to do nothing other than verify whether or not there's coverage or whether or not there's actually damage?
Yep.
What's the point of the estimate?
Yep.
But they
otherwise
meant to keep the cost
it's perceived
low.
as price fixing.
And they do such a good job that the average claim is below $25,000 when that is not my average claim. And I mean, how many times have you gotten a claim that was below deductible and it went way north of 30 grand quickly?
Oh yeah. 30, I would say, 39 seems to be the new 25, if you will. Well, I think 39 is the lowest one that I've had in a while.
And you made a really good point, is that we're, public adjusters, there's no bona fide education for public adjusters. There's no community course, matriculation that you can go out there at a college and get your certification or your degree in public adjusting, there is not one in independent adjusting. It's a 40-hour course and pass the test. I mean, as far as they're concerned, you could have been a bartender yesterday and an adjuster today, and here's the wolves and the flames, and we're going to throw you in them and go out there and adjust claims with no predetermined knowledge whatsoever. And so that's why claims are below $25,000, is because most of the people, including the public adjusters that are out there, don't have a rip and start as to what should be done or shouldn't be done from a contracting point of view. And so for all you public adjusters out there that think contractors are stupid, or all of you contractors out there that think public adjusters are stupid, none of us really understand fully what is going on there. You know what
On
I'm
the other
saying?
side.
And that's
Yep,
why
on
we
each side.
really and truly need to depend on each other. And the same for you independent adjusters. If you're out there listening and you don't know what the contracting practices are, frickin' ask somebody, for crying out loud. You know, and I'm telling you that
Proper
there's
methods and means of repair. Just ask. There's a ton of people that will steer you right.
And I cannot tell you the number of entryways that I stood in, and I asked the homeowners as an independent adjuster, do you intend on hiring a general contractor to complete the repairs at your home? I asked that question, one, because to determine whether or not I was going to add overhead and profit to it. And I didn't talk about complexity. The complexity of an insurance claim is complex if it is just a window screen, because of the administrative burden to navigate the shit that you got to go through just to get a check out of the insurance company. Right. And so, I mean, that's already complex, but I would ask them if they were going to hire a general contractor. And most importantly, have you chosen one yet? Because I would like his take on what he thinks that the repairs are supposed to be. That's what I did as that's what I did as an independent adjuster. Can I talk to your general contractor so that I can get a fuller and better? And that's how I learned to adjust claims, guys, is I talk to contractors. The other thing that I would do is when I knew that a window would be replaced, I would get on YouTube, and Lowe's had a battery of videos that was great on how to change the do-it-yourself thing. And I would look up all of these different things inside of, you know, I know that you have to measure a window and a window opening in 3 different places so that you know how to do that, how to size the window properly. But in Xactimate, it's just pop it out and put another one in. It's like they're Legos. You know what I mean? And it's just not, you know, just like
a range of square feet.
Just remove and replace, you know, a medium-sized window. It's nothing to it. You know, just go, and it's like, what size do you wear? I'm a medium. You know, and it's just not that simple. There are all of these different line items that go into accurately assessing what it takes to make these repairs. And that's why, as an adjuster, I knew I wasn't a contractor. So let's talk to that contractor. Talk to me a little bit about what's going on here. What are you going to need to complete this job? And somewhere that entire concept and idea got lost. And it became a contentious, competitive thing between. I was involved in an appraisal just the other day, Jess, and I know we're talking about fee caps and whether or not it's going to work across the board. But if you've heard this before, don't stop me. I want to hear it again. I was talking to an opposing appraiser, and he goes, well, I just don't see the complexity here and the need for overhead and profit here. And the contractor doesn't need that. And I was like, you're right. The contractor probably doesn't need it, but I'll tell you who does need it is the homeowner, because that's the one paying.
Yep.
It doesn't make any difference what your opinion on it is. This person has already incurred the cost of a general contractor. And if you want to talk about complexity, the very fact that it's sitting in appraisal tells me that it's been complex enough that overhead and profit is warranted. The very fact that we're here tells me that. And if you're wanting, and because of all of these different things that go in, because, you know, I would like to see the number of represented claims that are ending up in appraisal.
Just for overhead and profit too, by the way.
What's that percentage? You know, I mean, where's the next gen stats on that shit?
And I'm telling you, we get the fee cap stuff going. You know, another reason it can't happen nationwide. That's just for PAs. Then it rolls downhill. What happens to appraisals?
Yeah,
you know, if there's no, I don't want to say there's no money left in the claim, but for small residential losses, stuff like that would absolutely kill the ability for somebody to go hire somebody who knows what they're doing, can handle it fairly, equitably, quickly, amicably with the insurance carrier. It's just going to kill it. And then what? Everyone's going to try to become a consultant. Oh, well, PAing is too hard. PAing has too many requirements. PAing, there's not enough money in it. But if I go over here and call myself a consultant, there's a whole lot of that going on right now.
Yeah, I can charge whatever I want to, as long as I'm just a building consultant. I can charge whatever I want to.
I can just be I can be a consultant. I can write the letters on behalf of the insured. The insured can write them, sign them, whatever, and they can do all the legwork. I'm just helping them. They're out there everywhere.
Because, I mean, you are aware of a tool called copy and paste, right?
Engineers are.
Oh shit! That
said
was
it.
awesome.
Damn.
I
Yeah.
said what I said.
Insert
Man.
a killer sound for that one. That was
Somebody get the
whew,
cop.
bomb dropped. Shots fired.
Somebody just got
Shots
tagged.
fired.
Wow. Hang on. Go to your cut man in the corner over there. Yeah, you. Yeah, get over there because you just
Baby
got your
Kate's
nose
dropping bombs.
There we go. So, I mean, these things where building consultants can simply instruct a homeowner or a building consultant can instruct a homeowner, or can instruct a property owner of, commercial property.
A contractor, they can consult anybody.
I've written this in first person. What I need you to do is copy and paste it into the body of an email and press send.
Yep. Or I wrote it in a letter so you can put your signature on it, print it out, sign it, upload it, and just send it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Every day, all day, that can happen. And all you need is somebody that's savvy enough to know what, when not to step across the line and, and how to ask the right questions. And I've said this before. I mean, your intelligence is not measured by the facts, but by the questions you ask, and controlling the narrative is all about asking questions, and
to clarify, I'm not hating on the consultants. I realized that may have come across that way. I'm just saying that whenever government or whatever entities out there make a squeeze on something in industry or something, it's called squirters, right? You squeeze over here and everything's going to shift over there. There are always going to be people wanting to work around because, one, we got to eat. We have to provide a living for our family. And two, insureds everywhere need help. So they impose a nationwide fee cap and that's unreasonable. That might be reasonable in some regions, but it's completely unreasonable in others, like California or New York or whatever. Might be great for here in Texas, might be great in, in Kentucky or Mississippi or wherever, but you go to some of those other places, they're just going to circumvent the system. They're going to find another way to help and make money.
Absolutely. And I mean, so yeah, go ahead and throw a fee cap down on it and see how many public adjusters are around. And you want to talk about the wild, wild west when that happens.
Yeah. They'll all become consultants overnight.
Yeah. Overnight. It's like, yeah. And
then now what? Now you have a whole other sector to try to regulate in my air quotations.
And then never mind all of us teachers out there that decide to put together our webinar or our, day-long course that is on how to, be a building consultant, and then we're going to have all of this building consultant and the state regulators are going to have no room for it. The attorneys aren't going to know about it. All of these different things that are going to happen and they're going to step in. And that's essentially kind of what roofers, especially in the state of Texas and contractors kind of nationwide sort of stepped into, because there's so few public adjusters out there and so many claims are going unrepresented. They're basically taking on the role of this building consultant type person, but they're getting an error, where they step off an error is when they start arguing the claim on their own and they're not involving the property owner in it. When they begin to try to argue coverage and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I've said 1,000 times, there is no more powerful thing in an insurance claim than a pissed off homeowner at the carrier. Yep. And that is a powerful, powerful weapon. Because when they get mad and they start asking questions and they go to Facebook and they start telling their friends and, they figure out that 5 is on their side and they're down there at the news station complaining and screaming that all farm insurance company is not covering their claim the way that they were supposed to, even if they're wrong. You know what I mean? Even if they don't fully understand how coverage works, they don't care whether or not they understand it. All they do is they feel like they have in some way been disenfranchised and not informed of the stuff that is and isn't covered properly. And they're going to start screaming. And so, yeah. I mean, so all of the people out there that are wanting to fee cap these public adjusters, across the nation, be careful what you ask for because you just might get it. And that's a really scary thing, and and one of the things that I think that, just like you said, if we're going to have a nationwide fee cap, then there needs to be a nationwide body that we can appeal to what appears to, if you're going to cap my fee, then I'm going to need an easy button of some sort to go, they're not covering the claim. And I'm not talking about filing complaint at the State Department of Insurance. What I'm talking about is this is wrong. I know they're wrong. And all I have to do is be right and I can get paid. Then I'll support a nationwide fee cap when I have somebody that I can appeal to without having to go through the arduous process of a freaking lawsuit. You know what I'm saying? And if there is some sort of way to get around that, and then the individuals that work at the carrier are also individually held accountable for the way that they're processing and handling these claims, that there is some sort of downside that happens to them when they don't understand, when you're dealing with somebody who worked in the auto division is now trying to adjust this property claim. There's got to be something that happens to them, and they're held accountable for getting involved in something that they don't understand. So, final thoughts, Jess?
It would never work. I know they say never, but leave it to the states.
Trying. It won't stop them from coming up with the ways like we decide that this is a good idea. So I think it's pretty safe to say at the Rumble, I'm not a fan of fee caps. I don't mind a reasonable fee cap of some sort, but kind of what they're doing in Kentucky is ridiculous. Even some of the stuff that they've done to the Florida public adjusters when it comes to a catastrophe and things like that, I don't think you're helping out the consumer. I think laws are in place to defend and protect the public and not to defend and protect insurance carriers. And do not complain to me about now. I fully expect one of the cause and effect things here is expect your insurance premiums to go up. You know what I mean? And so you can fully anticipate that kind of thing as well, because as we become more prevalent and more ubiquitous as far as public adjusters and people in the know go, that means that payouts are going to go above $25,000. They're going to get to the 30, the 40, and the 50 that they probably should be at. And so you can fully expect an increase in your premium because payouts are going to go up. But guys, thank you so much for taking some time to listen to it. If we said something that you thought was useful and you want to pass this on to somebody, please don't forget to share it. By all means, click like and subscribe. I want to let you know that registration will be open in just about a week for the Control the Narrative training conference that I will be hosting and I will be teaching at. It is sort of my process A to Z. I'm opening up the tool bag and showing you the tricks, and I look forward to seeing each and every one of you out there. That registration will be open very, very, very soon. It is on March the 5th. It will be hosted here in Dallas, Texas. I think there's some other training opportunities with Claim Wizard that it's going to butt up right next to that. And there is an outside chance that I may even be doing a little bit of Estimatics training and Xactimate that weekend as well. So come to Dallas, have a good time, and we'll be back next week. But in the meantime, stay ready so you don't have to get ready, and we will see you on the next one.
Ready to ram you like the fire slammer jammer. Yes, we're coming up, don't even try to diminish it. I won't start it, but I damn sure will finish it.